Hey, welcome to my channel. I'm Sarah Smith, and today I am going to be talking about lessons from Lamott, particularly from this book by Lamott. So what I am is I have been a journalist for the past 4 years at the University of Mississippi studying journalism, and I love storytelling, and I have been working on novels since OEH, but particularly seriously working on a novel for the past 4 years. And this year I've really dedicated time to learning from great authors and reading the best books for authors by authors. And this is one of those books that has always been recommended to me. Actually, the first person to recommend it to me, though, wasn't a writer. It was a doctor that my mom was going to, I believe, a neurologist. And that was the first time I heard of it. But I have not stopped hearing about it since. I thought it was kind of funny that a neurologist recommended it, but he recommended this. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to get into the first lesson from Lamott. Today we will be talking about conversations with characters. Dialogue is the way to nail a character, so you have to work on getting the voice right. And Lamott, bird by bird. So in my writing journey, dialogue has always been my favorite part. Kind of ironic considering I'm not great at talking to people. Some of my friends would beg to differ, some of my friends would agree, but my conversation skills vary greatly depending on who I'm talking to. So with that being said, I will say dialogue has always been my favorite part to read and write in a novel. But usually my biggest critique is that I write too much dialogue. But I think that having conversations with your characters is the best way to write dialogue. When I was reading this book, she really kind of appealed to the idea that you would have conversations with your characters. And I was like, this has always been kind of like second nature to me, but I guess some people don't think about it that way. And I never really thought about it in the way I was having conversations with my characters. But I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to just have conversations with my characters themselves. I will sit on a park bench and think, what would we talk about in this circumstance? And that's how you get to know your characters and to write really fleshed out characters, because some of the things that you may talk about on a park bench is maybe something that they would talk about with another character on a park bench. So having conversations with characters is like any relationship that you have. It's getting to know your characters. And to write good characters, you have to know them. You, like me, have probably had people point out things to you that you didn't see. Well, what makes that any different for your characters? Unless your character is omniscient, and chances are they're probably not, because omniscient characters sound a little boring. You probably have things pointed out to people through the dialogue. So sometimes your character is like, if it's a really unobservant character, dialogue is a great way to get to know that your character is unobservant. It's also a way to have people paint things for you instead of always describing them in these long Faulkner-like sentences. Get people to describe things to you through dialogue. Conversation is a great way to describe what's acceptable in that world. Point 2. Everyone has a special vernacular, whether it was just how you were raised, or maybe the region you were raised in, maybe the state. Everybody has funny little things they do and tics they have. I grew up in Mississippi, and everybody says, over yonder. I don't know if that's a thing everywhere. I assume it's a southern thing.
But it's nice. Where the hell is yonder? I want to know. But that's not the point.
The point is if you're writing about certain characters, you have to think about that vernacular that they would carry. If they have uneducated parents, they're probably not saying words like, I'm at a loss for words. But maybe they're uneducated, but they're trying to be super smart, so they would use these ridiculously big words. That's things that a special vernacular for a character would have. And you have to be careful with special vernaculars, because sometimes that gets into areas where people stereotype people, and that's not good either, especially if you're writing a character that's unlike yourself. Point 3. Dialogue shows whether your character is dominant or passive. Now, in conversations, I'm usually a pretty passive person. I just am kind of pretty agreeable. I very rarely disagree with people because they don't want to come off as aggressive, but it really shows who a person is if they're dominant or passive in a conversation. And it's really important that when you're writing a character, you show their dominant nature or their passive nature, or maybe even if they're secretive. Like, conversation reveals in both the way they speak and the way they stay silent. And it also says like what type of person they are in certain conversations. Just think about any conversation going on in the world today and drop your character in it and think about what would they say, what conversation would you have with them, and really think about that and try to write down your conversation. It helps you learn and build that character, flesh it out, even if it's not for your story. Point 4: contrarian or conformist. Your character can be like something else that can be revealed about your character with conversations is, do they always agree with you? Do they always disagree with you? Do they just conform to everything you say, or are they always against it? Being a contrarian isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you can write a great contrarian or a bad contrarian. It just depends on what you want in your storytelling. So it's very important to know, is my character just conforming to everything in their society? Do they agree with it? Do they say they agree with it but internally disagree with it? It's a very good way to think of your character in the way, are you going to round them out well, or are you going to leave them kind of half-heartedly written? And I think any character above the age of 12, you should know if they're a contrarian or a conformist, because people very obviously in their conversations either conform to everything you say or want to contradict everything you say. And there are always these type of people. So think about that when you're. Point 5, their sense of humor. So most humor is expressed through body language and dialogue. And if you have those things, you kind of know if their sense of humor is clean, dirty, stupid, actually funny. What is their sense of humor? Is it like yours? Is it not like yours? If you were sitting on a park bench with them, would they laugh at your jokes? Would you laugh at their jokes? Are they not funny at all? Do they even try to be funny? Are they serious? These are great things to ask about your character. So the point is what Lamott taught me in this book is every encounter you have, you should be having a conversation with that character you're writing. The entire time you're writing that first draft, think about them, what they would say to the person that you just interacted with. Are you scanning at the gym? What would that person say at the gym? Would they say anything? Would they greet them? Would they just snarl? Would they, like, what would they do when they scan at the gym? What about when they pick up their, I don't know, their groceries? Would they interact with people? Would they be the person to help the little old lady down the aisle who's looking for something and can't find it? Would they just pass her by? What kind of interactions would they have? Interactions mean a lot, and dialogue means a lot in the story. And without it, the story is half told. So in every way that you go about, think about the conversations you have with your characters and how that influences your writing. Thank y'all for watching, and I hope you come back next week for more lessons with the Lamont. Bye, guys!